everyone, and welcome to therapy, I guess. This is Katie. She is, actually, you can introduce yourself, because I will butcher it.
Oh, you'll be fine. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and the type of therapist is just kind of anybody coming in and saying, like, how's that make you feel? And does that help you feel better? And all that kind of stuff. And I have a mental health education-based channel on YouTube.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of stuff, as I said in the last video, I've done a lot of stuff where I do things, I advocate for mental health, I try and break down the stigmas, try and be a voice for reason and to try and help people get through it and make people aware of it. And I always give advice based on what I hear from other people that's worked, what's worked for me, my own past experiences. But it's always good to have the professional side of stuff here. And we have a huge platform here to be able to talk about stuff. We have a huge audience here that we can talk about this stuff. And a lot of you guys always come to me and ask for advice on a lot of different topics. Got to do with depression, anxiety, disorders, mental health issues, just in general. So I thought it'd be good if we use this as a moment to actually talk about it and break it down. So we're going to be here for a while, so grab your popcorn. I've grabbed some questions from people online because I thought it'd be fun if you guys had a professional here that you could talk to. If you're afraid to go to a therapist in real life or anything, we can give some actual advice on what you're going through. And a lot of people will tell me the same kinds of things that they're going through. So I'm sure we'll get a lot of topics in mind. What should we start with? So the first one is just a general, how do I help with anxiety? I get it way too much and would love some tips and advice knowing what to do. So maybe it's good to actually talk about anxiety and what it is and why it happens and how to cope with it.
Yeah, so anxiety as a whole, it can feel different to different people, but usually we feel it physically most. We call that in therapy like psychosomatic symptoms, meaning like our brain is causing our body to respond in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so it could be like sweaty palms, racing heart, it could be racing thoughts, like, oh my God, I'm gonna mess this up, oh my God, they're gonna hate, like that kind of stuff. Those are all kind of components of anxiety. Some people can feel like short of breath. And overall, it can just be like worry about everything and anything for no reason.
Like the world is crumbling around you.
Yes, exactly. And it's just like excessive worry. If I was to talk like diagnostically speaking, it means you have excessive worry about any and all things relating to your experience. And so if that's what you're experiencing at all, and there's a total, like anything, there's a spectrum. There can be people who just feel anxious and sometimes have trouble going to sleep maybe for a bit.
Yeah.
But there's people who have panic attacks on the regular, and panic attacks are like an extreme version of what I talked about, heart palpitations and sweaty palms, so much so that people can like not have memory of that time because it was so overwhelming. So that's kind of just like what it is. And I have videos about those if you want to get into like the nitty-gritty about it. But as far as how you can help with anxiety, the most important thing is to figure out what triggers it for you. Yeah. Because everybody's gonna be different. And like for me, it tends to be if I'm feeling anxious, it's because I've committed to a lot more than I can actually do. Yeah. And then I'm like worried and I don't want to sleep and I'm stressed out, maxed out. So figure out what it is for you so that you can potentially avoid those triggers while we work on your coping skills. And coping skills are something you can do to make the anxiety feel better. So that could be going for a long walk, that could be taking a cold shower or a warm bath, or it could be, you know, a lot of people like coloring something, you know, it's like soothing, listening to calming music. Totally. Silly putty even. I have in my office with my patients, they can keep that moving. So find out what helps you and then do that while avoiding those triggers and then slowly incorporate those triggers back in. Yeah. Because I think the number one problem I have is people don't want to incorporate those triggers back in, and then we can't have a life that's trigger free. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's just not life. People are going to do things that are going to be upsetting. You're going to have to be able to cope. So we need to incorporate those while we're still doing those good things. Yeah, because I think for me, recently I've come to terms with like the amount of anxiety that I've had, and I was completely in denial about it for years, and I didn't want to admit that I had anxiety because to me it was like, not so much a weakness, but it was something that I felt like I didn't have control over. Yeah. And that was terrifying to me. And now that I've been doing this for so long, my schedule was my biggest source of anxiety for me. And needing to keep on the videos all the time and never taking breaks and then building it up that I was proud of that work schedule and having so many people come to me and tell me how perfect my work ethic is and how they wish they were like that. And that to me was building up something in me that I didn't know. So my way of dealing with it was like to remove myself from it, to figure out why it was causing that and what like solutions. So then I came back. Take away your triggers. And
and then work through what I like. My schedule is different now, so I'm actually able to work through it in a more calm manner, and I'm not constantly on that treadmill trying to figure it out and just, I don't know, taking more time for myself to try and figure out how to get through it. So
yeah, and I think a lot of people we won't know that something's wrong with us necessarily, because that could be like our norm.
Yeah.
Like we're just used to feeling that way. And until something gets bad, where it's like affecting our ability to function, like I'm not able to do all I need to do, or I'm not able to, create the videos that I want to, or I'm feeling frustrated, I think that's really normal.
Yeah, and there's so many versions of anxiousness as well. Like the butterflies in your stomach is like a form of anxiety, because it's like performance anxiety. You're waiting for something to happen. You're excited about it, but there's time left, and you just want to go out and do it. So it's not all like life crushing. You can still deal with your anxieties in a proper way. It doesn't have to be like your world crumbling around you. Yeah,
don't wait till it gets to that point. If you can, it's best to get help sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a good one, and this is something that a lot of people definitely struggle with, is how do I start loving myself?
Ooh, yeah. We all are working on that, hopefully,
every
day. But there are some tips and tools that can help you in the moment, and I think the number one thing is the conversation you have with yourself. Because I hear from a lot of my viewers, they'll be like, people will say nice compliments to me, and I'll take them as like an insult. Why?
Yeah.
And it's because we're having a conversation with ourselves that is pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And so you have to pay attention to that. And it's hard at first, and what I usually have my patients do, which sounds really tedious, but I promise it's super helpful, is keeping track of your thoughts. And so whether that's a notes that you pull up in your phone and you just keep track, I'm so lazy and slow, or I never can do this right, or it could be something nice, like, hey, today I did that really well at work. And so I want you to keep track of all of those thoughts, because that gives us an idea of what the conversation is, and then we can work to change it. So if the conversation is really nasty, then I use what I call bridge statements. So instead of telling you oh, you're thinking really shitty things, now think really great things.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. We don't believe them. We're like, bullshit. That doesn't make any sense. We can use bridge statements where they're like, maybe, possibly, I don't have all the information and that's not 100% correct.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean we agree and we think, oh, this is wonderful and everything's perfect. We're like, it's possible that I'm not as shitty as I think I am.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a way to start turning the conversation into more positive, where you slowly start to feel like, yeah, I can do that, and people like me, and I'm a good person, and you can slowly come around to it.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest thing people have a time doing, especially with social media and everything nowadays. There's so many people out there willing to tell you that you're worthless and ready to jump on you and everything, but I've always tried to talk about the first and best love you can have is for yourself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what happens with people, and a lot of people I've met, if you don't love yourself, it's easy to project your thoughts onto someone else, and then they become the issue, instead of realizing, taking that moment and realizing, well, why does this upset me? Why am I angry at this? Why am I angry at that person for doing that? It kind of comes from within first, and I feel like if you love yourself first, it's a lot easier to love the rest of the world that way.
Yeah.
Because you see it through clearer eyes rather than seeing it through your own judgment prisms.
Yeah, because we all have filters, right, from our experience, and if our filter's coming through that nasty conversation all the time, we're only able to see nasty. And sometimes we're so much more well-equipped to give pain than to feel pain.
Yeah.
And so allowing yourself just to experience what you're experiencing, knowing it's okay and talking nice to yourself about it, will allow you to then not feel so just toxic and hateful to people.
Yeah, and as the internet has shown, it's easier to sit in a hate mob than it is to do something positive, because that's the stuff that gets attention. That's the stuff that gets reactions.
Yeah.
Because if you've already won over somebody, you don't need to change their opinion.
Yeah.
They already like you. So just take some time for yourselves.
Be nice to people.
Do the things you like to do. If you love yourself, other people will love you too.
Yeah.
It's easier to treat the world nicer.
Yeah, because
it sounds all silly. It sounds like a Disney movie.
But it's true though. If I'm feeling good about myself and I'm putting out, I believe in kind of the vibe thing, for however hokey pajokey that sounds. But you're putting out good energy and people pick up on that. And I think in the same way, if we're putting out negative energy, people pick up on that as well.
Exactly.
And we want to attract healthy, happy, wonderful, loving people. And if we're being healthy, happy, wonderful, and loving, we'll get that. And so just consider that, because nobody wants to feel hateful or icky. And so if you just pay attention to what you're saying to yourself and then how that's affecting people around you, hopefully we can slowly turn that around. And it takes time. Be patient. It's a process, not perfection. So just give yourself a moment. Yeah,
because that's kind of how I live this channel in general, is that I have the positive mental attitude thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I saw. I like it.
That we're doing recently. Thank you. Mm-hmm. But
you have new merch.
I do.
Click the link in the description.
No, we're not going to turn this into a sellout. Oh God.
Oh, I got too excited.
But it's that vibe of just being outwardly positive, and not in any sort of fake sense. Like, positive mental attitude isn't just be like, go be happy, because now your problems are fixed. Because that's stupid. No one can do that, and it doesn't work. But it's just to like put some positivity into the world, and it'll give it back to you. And that's why whenever I hear YouTubers talk about their communities and how much they hate their communities because their community hates them, and I always think it's like you get out of it what you put into it. Like if you're showing them an example of something, one way or another, whether you're closing off that conversation or not, they're going to lash out at you eventually. Whereas if you're just nice, open, honest, and positive, just be yourself, then they're going to see you as a person, and then it's easier to have that conversation.
Totally.
And then if some people still don't like you in that, then you're probably never going to win those people over.
Well,
anyway.
You can't please everybody either.
Yeah.
You will end up never pleasing yourself. So just start with yourself, and then the good people will follow.
Love few, but love deeply.
Yes, I like that. Yes.
There's a lot of questions got to do with like high school, and the anxieties got to do with that, and going into college, and everybody, it all kind of falls under the same heading. Everyone's kind of feeling the same sort of way, and a lot of it seems to be boiling down to motivation.
Oh, like lack of motivation? Like
and how to keep themselves motivated, and how like their work can kind of burn them out and get on top of them because they're not motivated to keep it going.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from like what we talked about in the other video, like burnout, because everybody experiences it at different times. And motivation comes, there's like two reasons I think this could be happening. Number one, if you aren't enjoying other things in your life, if things you used to find fun aren't fun anymore, if you feel super tired or you're struggling to sleep, if there's changes in your like ability to be hungry, or you're overeating, undereating, anything like that, then I would see a professional, because those are all symptoms of depression. And depression is like the number one, it like zaps all our motivation, makes everything seem like a huge ordeal. If like showering, you're like, oh my God, you should probably see somebody. And there's no shame in that. It actually takes a stronger person to reach out than I think it does to just sit back and just let it happen. So be active and proactive and reach out and see someone. But the other thing I think is like burnout. So if we're at school, and they're asking a lot of us, right? School, I mean, I've been out of school for a while, thank God, but I think it's only getting harder and harder for kids these days, and they're expecting more at a younger age.
It's almost designed to burn people out.
Yeah, and like the expectations are just crazy. So my main, I guess, advice for that would be make sure you take time for things you love. Whether that's people, whether that's activities, making sure that you're giving yourself that downtime, because we know from research that we can only focus, the average brain can focus for 30 to 45 minutes without a break.
Yeah.
So don't sit down and be like, I have to study for 6 hours. That's never gonna happen, and that's okay, you're not supposed to.
No, you're not a machine.
No, so give yourself breaks, and in those breaks do something that feels good, whether that's petting an animal, going for a walk, calling a friend, sitting in silence, maybe if that's something you enjoy. Make time for those things, and hopefully over the long term, your productivity and motivation will come back.
Yeah, but and you brought up a good point as well about going to seek help, and you're licensed as the person that people seek out help from. But do you have any advice for people? Because a lot of people want to seek help, they know they should. And as you said, you're not weak for wanting to seek out help, and especially you don't need to be broken either to seek it out.
No.
From the happiest to the lowest, everybody I think should just seek out help anyway, because it's healthy. But do you have any advice for people who are going to seek help to get over that like social anxiety of like...
Yeah, I mean, it's always scary to do something for the first time. That's totally normal. And I think when we think about seeking help, we're like, I don't even know how to do it, or what do I say, or what if they don't believe me? And I think the main part of it is knowing that we're people too, and we do this all day, every day. So we're not gonna think you're weird. We're not gonna, invalidate any of your experiences. We're just there to learn about you and to help. So just know that coming in, and also 90% of the time, we're not gonna pick up the phone, you're gonna leave a message. So you don't have to talk to him right away, you can leave a message. And I would just write down what you wanna say ahead of time, say it out loud to yourself first once, then make the call and say your spiel. Yeah. And you'll be good.
Yeah. And somebody else asked a question before as well, that's a good point, that like it's hard go and seek out help in general. That's a very brave step to do, but some people hit a wall with that professional, and they don't give it good advice, they feel like they're not listening or anything. And just to know that the first person you seek out shouldn't be the last person you seek out. If it goes well, fantastic, but if not, that's not a closed door. There's plenty of other professionals out there who can be the perfect thing that you need to help you get through what you're going through.
Yeah, because we're all different. Like I said, we're people. So like Sean and I could both be therapists. We have totally different takes on things because we're different people. And people can be good at their jobs, people can be shitty at their jobs. So know that if you don't, like, I always call it like the click with a therapist, you should really feel like they get you and they're on your side.
Yeah.
And that's really it. That's like what you need to start building the relationship. And if you don't feel like they get you, or you feel like they're just kind of like not paying attention, or they don't remember important things, I mean, I have a whole video about how to know if you're seeing a bad therapist.
Yeah.
Know that there's no problem in just saying, I don't want to make another appointment, can I get more referrals? We don't have an ego about it, or we shouldn't.
Yeah.
And so if you don't want to go back, don't go back. But don't go back just because you're scared to actually work on stuff.
Yeah.
Only go back if you think that they're like not a good fit, and
Yeah.
then we try somebody else.
Yeah. And therapy is never a judgment zone. I know it's very easy to go in and like have your insecurities about how you perceive yourself, and that goes back to the self-love thing, that you can project what you think the therapist is telling you as like an attack. It's a personal attack against you when it's not. It's there to help you in a completely unbiased scenario.
Yeah, it's called transference.
Yeah.
When you like transfer what you think about yourself or a scenario you've had onto your therapist. And a good therapist will recognize it and help you work through it.
Yeah. So go seek help if you need it and if you want it. So a big chunk of, well, the world at large these days is like awakening to the LGBTQ. I don't know. There's
LGBT, I always say LGBT plus. It's
Yeah.
like QIA plus.
Yeah, but the entire spectrum of sexuality and humanity and everything, and it's great. Like those walls are being broken down. We can actually talk about it. Gay marriage is like legalized in so many places now, which is wonderful. It's a slow process to get there, and a lot of people in the world, gay, straight, bi, anything in between, trans or whatever, are all trying to figure themselves out and figure out a way forward and how they express that to the world. And I hear a lot of stuff from a lot of people, younger people especially, who need to come out to their parents one way or another, but they're having a hard time doing that because the parent might not listen, or they're aggressive, or they're just afraid to talk about it in general. So do you have any advice for them, like language to help them talk to their parents about it?
Yeah, definitely. There's a few things. First, know that you never have to come out. I know that sounds silly to say it that way, but you don't have to, and it's something that you should only do because you want to.
Yeah.
No one in your life should be pressuring you to do it. If you're in that type of relationship, I'd encourage you to take another look at that relationship, because it should be something on your own time when you feel ready. And then get support first. So either a therapist, or if there's like an LGBT group online or where you live, like make sure you have a lot of support around you. And then the next thing is start writing down what you want to say. And I find with parents and family, it's best to keep it as short and succinct as possible.
Yeah.
Don't go on a preamble about the rights or whatever you think we should be doing. Stick to like what's going on with you and what you need them to know, and then end with what you need from them.
Yeah.
So for instance, you could say like, hey, mom and dad, like as you know, I haven't really dated any guys like you thought I was going to be doing, and that's because I think I might be bisexual, or I think I might be a lesbian. And what that really means to me is just I'm figuring out who I am and who I want to be in relationship with, and what I need from you is just understanding.
Yeah.
And then you end it. And then the thing that's the hardest for my patients and my viewers alike is you have to be able to give them time. And I know it sucks, and you want them to be like, we love you, and it's like a Disney movie or some like amazing experience. But we have to give them time to digest it and to figure out how they want to respond. If we push, sometimes we can get a bad reaction, and then that's when it can be really bad. And so I would just encourage you to be patient, and that's why we have to do it in our own time, when we feel safe enough to be able to give them the time to digest it and then come back with a response. And hopefully, I find if we do that, most of the time, they respond very well.
Yeah. And that's, like I was saying, like we're in a world of change, and a lot of parents are from an older generation where depression, anxiety, mental health, sexual identities and everything, like this stuff wasn't talked about. It existed, but it was all very repressed. So everyone's trying to come to terms with their own version of it and coming to their own truth about everything that's going on in the world now. And even me, like people come to me and tell me their life stories about everything, which is fantastic. I love hearing them, and I'm very accepting and welcoming of all walks of life, but I wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, before I even started YouTube, I grew up in a very heavily religious country that like didn't talk about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I would have had like the idea of somebody identifying as another gender and everything was all completely foreign to me and weird, and I had no idea what that was and just didn't listen to it. And now I'm a lot more accepting because I hear so many great stories from people. So it takes a long time to change the world, but you do it step by step.
Yeah, it starts with you. So it
Yeah.
starts with how we communicate and it not coming at it in a combative fashion, but coming at it in a way so we can, because I always tell my viewers, I'm like, as not a member of that community, like educate me. I'm happy to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm happy to understand, but you have to give me the time to get there
Yeah.
with you.
So be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly. Ding.
This is a good one to talk about because I feel like it pertains to the YouTube audience in general, because the reason I started doing YouTube is because I needed friends in like who shared the same thoughts as I did, who liked the same things I did. And then I wanted to do that for other people, but it's easy to use the internet as like your surrogate friendships
Yeah.
and your surrogate family, which is great. I love hanging out with people. I love that you guys feel close to me and everything, but I still think it's important to have like proper friendships in real life, like physical interaction with people. But because the internet is the way it is, and it's easier to make friends online than it ever has been, a lot of people are using that instead of making friends in real life because they're scared of that.
Yeah.
So like, how do you approach people? How do you become friends with people? Especially a lot of the people who are going to college and high school and things like that.
Yeah, there's a couple things. It depends on how bad, if you have really bad social anxiety. Like I start my patients out, and this is gonna sound really silly, but I started out with just them making eye contact with a stranger and smiling.
Yeah.
Because even that can be really overwhelming. Some of my patients like don't want to make eye contact at all. And maybe you're there, and so that would be where I would start. And then the next step is usually to have them do that and then say good morning or good afternoon or how's your day? Like little clips, even if you just go to like your local coffee shop and you say that to the person who's like, you know, you're exchanging money with and placing your order.
Yeah, that's a good
It's
idea.
kind of a person who's like, they're gonna be friendly, they're at work, so it's safe, and you can start trying to initiate conversation.
Yeah, you can't really do that wrong.
No. And it just like, how's your day going? Oh, it's busy. Okay, bye. That's it, you know,
Yeah.
and then you're moving on. Maybe it's busy and you have to keep going. So it works, right? It's kind of like a safe little bubble
Yeah.
to start in. But when it comes to like school and college, the thing that I always encourage people to do is if it's college in particular, in the States at least, that's all I can really speak to in my experience, say yes to all the things at the beginning. Because the cool thing about when you first go to college, if you're a freshman, nobody knows anybody. It's awesome. Everybody is like feeling like a loner and
Yeah.
like totally awkward. And they have all these social things set up so that you get to meet people. And it's like made for that. And yes, I know it'll be overwhelming. So make sure you're still spending time on your own, doing things that feel good to you, doing some of those coping skills we talked about earlier. But engage, do it, because nobody knows anybody. And this is the first time you may not feel like you're behind the 8 ball, like behind it.
Yeah.
You're like with everybody and everybody feels kind of awkward.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about doing like the going out and talking to like a barista or something
Yeah.
to break that like that phobia.
Because even for us, like if we spend too much time inside, like we don't actually interact with other people
Yeah.
sometimes, and it can feel awkward at first when you go back out. You're like, oh. And so if you haven't interacted with people in a while, that's a good place to start. And then
Yeah.
at school, if you're not in college and that's not your experience, or if you're at work and you know you're like trying to make friends that way, I always just tell people to find one person that seems really nice and warm to others and start with them.
Yeah.
So start with the same thing, like whether it's making eye contact and smiling and then saying good morning and then slowly building it. But just start with one. I think we get overwhelmed because it's like a lot of people and we're like, oh, we should have so many friends. It's not always how it is.
Yeah.
And it's better to have like quality, not quantity. So
Exactly.
start with the one.
Yeah. Good advice. there's like a very, I don't know how like deep and dark you want to get, because I feel
I
like
can go deep and dark.
I feel like tiptoeing around this stuff is only going to get you so far. And I think a lot of these issues we need to like tackle head on and talk about them. With all the depression and anxiety and everything that people are going through and opening up about more, people are opening up more about like suicide and suicidal thoughts, and there's a big culture around that, and there's a big shift happening, I think, in the world now. A lot of celebrities are taking their own lives,
Yeah.
and there's a lot to talk about in that regard. I don't even really know where to start about it and how to like tackle a subject like that, because it is talking about death. It is
Yeah.
talking about something that's scary.
Yeah, but I don't think it, I mean, yes, it can be, it's scary, but I don't think it really has to be, because the way that I approach like suicidal thoughts is it usually, if someone in your life or if you are struggling, you know it comes out of a place of hopelessness.
Yeah.
And so it's that ends up leading us to even considering taking our own life. But the good news is that there is help available. There are people like me. I promise therapists aren't like total jackasses or weirdos. We're like normal people too. And so it's okay to reach out. It's okay to speak up. And I know it can feel really alone, but I promise like the telling a friend, even if it's just a text, like, hey, can you come over? Or, hey, I'm feeling like in a really dark place. Or if it's a chat room online, if you don't have any contact with people, like, do that little bit of outreach, because that's like your light in the darkness.
Yeah.
You're feeling like there's no hope, but there truly is. And there's also the crisis text line. If you're in the States, UK, and Canada, I believe, it's 741-741. Just text hey or hi or howdy or
just
whatever
text.
you want. Yeah, you get to text, and they're there to help you.
Yeah.
And you know, just the thing that I always tell people is the time to prepare isn't when we're feeling like total garbage. Prepare when you feel like decent, because we all know it kind of comes and goes, right? Like it comes in waves. And so when you're feeling good, I would encourage you to put together a plan for this, like a safety plan. Not the other plan, safety plan. Because we have to have people we can reach out to 24/7, because we all know nights are probably the worst. So we need to make sure that there's people we can text, call, reach out to, communicate with, no matter what. And that could be the crisis text line, or that could be a friend that you know lives in a different time zone. All of that stuff can be really, really helpful. Also, I always tell people to do impulse logs, which is like the impulse is to take our life, right? What is it that so it breaks it down. And you can look these up online. And one of my favorite apps is the Safe Alternatives app, and it has impulse logs. You can do it on your phone. It does cost, I think, $1.99, but it's totally worth it. But you fill them out, and it's like, what's my impulse? Let's say my impulse isn't even really to kill myself. Maybe it's like I'm going to self-injure, and I want to self-injure. Okay, well, what is it that I was feeling earlier today? I was feeling hopeless. I was feeling pissed off. I was feeling frustrated, whatever. Write those out. What could I do that would make me maybe feel better? And it makes you try to think. It slows down your impulse urge. And that's mainly what I get my patients to try to understand, is like slowing it down. And then once you've done the impulse log, wait 30 minutes and then reach out to your professional if you have someone in your life, or honestly, call 911, go to the hospital. Because there are people there to help. Let them help you. There is hope. Don't feel like it's hopeless. I promise, people care and you're important. So we want you to stick around. Yeah.
So I think just reaching out of any kind at all. Because it is easy to, and that's the thing that recurs when I talk to people, is that everyone feels alone. Everyone feels like they're going through that one thing themselves, that their parents didn't accept them, they didn't get into the college course, their job sucks, whatever. Everyone thinks they're going through the same thing, or everyone thinks they're going through that one thing on their own, when really there's a bunch of people going through the same thing. And as you said, there's always people out there to help. And it's not always the first person that you reach out to. So sometimes you meet closed doors, but as long as you keep reaching out, as long as you keep fighting to like keep going and staying in it, because I always say it just takes that like one moment of clarity to pull you out of like that worst place.
Totally. It's like that light, because it can feel so dark, and then you're like, oh, there is hope.
Yeah. So as long as you're reaching out, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
And even then, you're doing something. You're keeping active. You're distracting yourself. You're being productive. You're doing something.
Yeah.
And that's always important.
Totally. I have a whole video I put out recently about like coping skills and distraction techniques, because sometimes we just need to be distracted from the thoughts, and other times we're going to need to do things like impulse logs and like actual coping, like a tangible thing that helps us process it through. So knowing that that's available too, and just check out, if you think you're still alone and you're the only one, check out the comments. Look at any comment in my videos, like, you're not alone. A lot of people struggle, but it does get better.
Yeah, absolutely. That was good. I hope you guys took something away from this. There's a lot more that we could talk about. There's a lot more topics. There was a lot more questions. Everything kind of falls under the same umbrellas, and I think you've given some good advice to get people starting on different aspects. And even if you're feeling one aspect of this thing, it's still good advice to help you get through different parts. Because, as I said, I'm always advocating for mental health and positivity and doing good things for yourselves and loving yourself, but I think it's nice to hear a professional say it, because then you're taken a lot more seriously.
I hope so. I hope it was helpful.
And it's good to know that the advice I've been giving people aligns with the stuff you said, and I'm not putting out bad advice for people out there. No, it's
perfect.
So you're all wonderful. And the more you think that, the more you'll be able to get through. But thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for talking it through. You can check out Katie. I'll leave a link in the description for her channel. She has a ton of videos that are going to help you and go very much in depth, a lot of research, a lot of scientific stuff gone into it as well. So it's not just all giving you advice and words, it's actually breaking it down on why things are the way they are. So go check her out. She's incredible.
Oh, thanks.
But thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna see you next time. Bye.
Bye.